Hello everyone, welcome to Zaref Game Dev. In this video, we are going to set up the score elements, which is the score and the rest of the uh, this boosters, and we are going to set it up depending on how the player collides with the enemy. So let's start creating the game. So if you have followed till now, you should have the scene like I opened up now, and we are able to move the player when the game starts, and there are enemies spawning, waves of enemies spawning. So now they are not getting destroyed and the score is not getting changed. So let's first set up our player and we'll add all the effects. So for the boost effect, it's going to be a particle system, and we'll set up the particle system. So for the duration of the boost, we are going to set uh, the duration to around 2 seconds, and we'll need it to be looping, and for the position it's going to be negative 0.75. And now the start size is too much large, so we'll decrease the start size to 0.5. And lifetime, we are going to set the lifetime to 1. And speed, it doesn't matter what the speed is, but for the rotation we are going to have random between two constants, and we'll just set it from 0 to 360. And for the x and y, we are just going to set it to 0 because we don't want it rotating in any of the axes. And simulation space, we are going to set it to world because when it is spawned, it is going to spawn around the world. And for the color, let's set it to red for now. And emission, let's set the rate to 60. No, this one is, yep, this one is for the boost. For the emission, if we set it to 30, it's almost good enough. And shape, instead of cone, we'll use a sphere, and the radius will use a zero point 0.1 radius. So it's spawning from a single space, and we don't need any velocity over time, and the start velocity is going to be 0. So where is velocity? Speed, let's set the speed to 0, and as you can see, it is spawning right around here. And after that, we have set up the shape and billboard. And for the material, we'll use the sprites default material, and inside our texture sheet animation, we'll use, where is our texture sheet animation, mode to sprites, and the sprite we are going to use the hard sprite. So as you can see, there are a couple of hard spawning and nothing else will be needed for now. Similarly, we'll just copy this particle system and we'll paste it inside the revenge component, but for the revenge, let's hide it. Add paste component as new, and everything's almost set up, but we need to have the size correctly set up. So that was for the boost, hide, but for the start size, we'll increase the start size to 1 because it's going to change. Not 1, let's have it 0.75. And let's do the restart, and it's also looping, and that should be it for the revenge. And for the shield, let's hide the revenge. We are just going to use sprite render component, and the sprite, let's just use the circle sprite and increase the scale to 2. And this one is the shield, so it will be like this. And ordering layer for revenge, and both of this, it needs to be at the back. So we'll set the ordering layer to -1. Similarly for the revenge, ordering layer will be set to -1. And where is the ordering layer for the renderer? Cast shadows off. And similarly for the magnet, we'll copy the shield, copy component, and we'll paste it inside the magnet. And we'll just set the color to around red, and we'll rescale it. And instead of bright red, let's use a light dark red. So it's going to be our magnet. Now we have set up all our objects. So if we go inside our player, let's also hide the shield and the magnet. And we'll also hide our two trails because they are, no, we need to show them because we are just setting up the emitting component. Now if we hit play, the objects are currently there, but we are not going to be shown. So let's start creating first the text which we are going to use. So let's create an empty, and we'll just call it text. Let's reset its transform, and we'll just add a text mesh pro input, text mesh pro text component, and it will add the respective rect transform, mesh renderer, everything. And for this text, we are just going to have it called plus 40, and we need to position it to the center. So center, and we need to change the text size to 16. Let's make it bold, and the text we are going to use is this one. And for now we are not going to change anything, and we'll also save this text as a prefab. Now after having this text, we need to create one more prefab, which is for the explosion. And inside our explosion, as you created a particle system, we created a similar particle system. It's not going to be looping. The duration is going to be 2 seconds. The lifetime is going to be 1 second. There is no delay. Start size, let's just have it as 1. Rotation random between two constants, and 0 to 360. And simulation space, let's doesn't matter. And for the start color, we'll use a grayish color, so it looks like it is a gray. And instead of having continuous spawning, we are going to have it spawn just once. So if we restart, as you can see, there are so many particles. And we also need to set the start size to 0.5 and change the shape instead of cone to sphere with the radius of 0.1. And after that, inside the renderer, we have the billboard, and for the materials we are going to use the sprites default. And ordering layer will set to -1, and inside the texture sheet animation set the mode to sprite, and we'll add our heart sprite. You can have different explosion sprite, but I'm just going to use a heart sprite. So if we restart, and the velocity, let's change the velocity to around 15, and the duration to 1.5, and lifetime to 0.75, and start speed, let's set it to 15. Now if we restart, it's going to spawn as a black explosion. It's still too large, so let's set it to 0.75. Still too large. 0.4 and 0.4. So now it looks good enough, and we'll save this explosion as a prefab. So we have our explosions and all the boosts are correctly set up. So let's go inside our score manager. So Let's go inside Visual Studio and we'll go inside our score manager. And for now, there's nothing inside here. So let's add the variables first, which the score manager is going to manage. So the first variable it's going to manage, let's let's do the using Unity Engine dot UI, and after having UI using Text Mesh Pro, and let's go inside our score manager and we'll use a serialized field. Where was our score manager and why did I go at the start? We'll do it. Score, score, score. So let's do a serialized field and private tmp text, and first text we are going to have is for the score text, and next we'll have the end score text, and the total score text, and there is also our score prefab, so which we have created, and the last one is the coins text, and we'll also need a couple of private slider, and this one is for the revenge slider. Serialized field private list of image, and this images are for the boost holders, and after having our boost holders, let's create a list for our health holders, and then we'll have serialized field private game object, and this one is for the boost holder, so when we want to show it, and let's create a private float score multiplier, and then we'll have private int, or just use private float for the score, and private float for the coins, or maybe we'll just directly get the coins. So private bool, and this one's for the has game finished. So first we'll have our awake method, which we are going to set up the score. Has game finished will be set to false, and then we are going to trigger the hmm, 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 refresh score and refresh coin. And revenge slider dot game object dot set active to false. And boost holder we are going to show, but it's already shown, so it won't matter much. And after having that, let's add the on enable and on disable method. And the first method we are going to add is when the game starts. So when the game starts, let's create a game start method, and it's going to get a dictionary for string and object, and let's call it message. And we are going to start the coroutine, and we need to create that coroutine. So let's create an enumerator, start counting, and inside our start counting function we are going to increase the score while the game has not finished. So while has game finished or not has game finished, we are going to increase and set up the score. So let's add the score plus is equals to score multiplier multiply by time dot delta time, and first we'll do yield return null, so it waits for 1 frame. And after increasing the score, what we'll do is we'll create a temporary score which is going to cast it to an integer, and we'll pass the score to it, and we'll set the score text, and we'll set it text to be this temporary score dot toString and plus, and we'll pass the points. And we are going to have this method, so event manager dot start listening, we are going to start listening to the constants dot event names dot game start, and we are going to listen to the game start event. And if we copy it again, we are going to stop listening. So this one should start counting, but when the game finishes it should stop counting. So let's create a game over function, and it's going to take parameter from the events. So it will need a dictionary from string to object, and let's call it message, and it's not going to pass any parameters, but let's just, so when the game finishes, now instead of here start listening, we are going to stop listening. So the first thing we are going to do is has game finished will be set to true. So this condition will not work, and the start counting function is going to automatically stop. And similarly, we'll calculate the temp score to be the integer for the score, and we'll update the end score text. And first we are going to pass the score, and then we'll add our whatever the score is, which is the temp score dot toString, and afterwards we'll add the points. So instead of single quote double quote, yep, let's just use the double quote. So this should set up the end score, and first let's get the total score. So total score is going to be player prefs dot has key, and we are going to get the key from constants dot data dot score. Then we'll get the player prefs dot get int constants dot data dot score, else it's going to be 0. And we'll add our temporary score to the total score, and we'll set up the player prefs. So player prefs dot setInt, and it's going to be constants dot data dot score, and the value we are going to pass is the total score. And after setting up, we need to also set up the total score text. So total score text or text is going to be total score dot toString and plus maybe around PTS. And it was already an integer, so it doesn't matter. And after having the score, let's create the boosts and maybe don't know. Mm, update coin. Yep. Uh, coin. We need to set up the coin. Maybe we'll do it later. So we have both the scores. So let's see if we are having our scores updated. So for that, we need to set up the variables in the spawn manager. And spawn manager, we don't have the coin prefab in the score manager. The first one is the score text, which is inside the game active UI, and inside our game active UI we have the score count, and end score is in our game end UI. Total score also is in our game end UI, and score prefab which we have set it here. The coins text, it should be inside our starting UI, and ribbon slider as we have created, it should be inside the game active and inside our boost holder. Okay, here's the ribbon slider, and there are three boost holders and we'll arrange them in their order. So let's go inside boost holder and we go from 1, 2 and 3, and similarly for the boost holder we'll add the game object and we'll also add the three health holders. So it's going to be inside our health 1, health 2 and health 3. So for now, depending on the game start and the game over event, we should be able to see the correct scores. So let's see, when the game starts, it's at 0 point and we didn't set up the coroutine, or maybe that's a problem. So we are starting the coroutine, start counting as game finished is false. Hmm. Score plus is equals to score multiplier into time dot delta time. Okay, we didn't set up the score multiplier, so the score multiplier was set to 0. So let's set the score multiplier to 32 and now it should be working. The end score was also working. There was not any problem. There was just a problem with the score multiplier. So let's hit play, and as you can see our score is increasing, and whenever game ends, the score should be at some value and we should get that score here, and the total number of points are also shown. So there was just a problem with the space, so let's add one more space, and score text is okay, not here space but total score. So as you can see now the score is updating, and we are also setting up our score in the player prefs. So when the game ends, you should be also able to see the total score is also getting updated. So now there are so many cars, so we'll set up the collision for the cars. And we have not added the functions for these two buttons, which are the restart and the go to main menu. So let's add that. So inside go to main menu, let's add our game manager, and we'll add the go to menu function, and inside our restart we'll also add our game manager, and we'll add the restart game function. So let's see, now the score is increasing as we like, and the coins are not getting updated, so we'll also need to create the coins and this to UI. So let's start updating our score depending on how it collides. So if it misses, then we are going to set a different condition. So we'll pass the variables in the event, and depending on that variables, the score will get updated. So let's create first for if the enemy collides with each other. So let's go inside Visual Studio, and let's go inside our enemy script. So we have the init and the fix update script, and we also have our spawn manager, but when they collide with each other nothing is happening. So we'll use on collision enter 2D function, and if collision dot game object dot compare tag, and we are going to compare the tag to the constants dot not data, constants dot tags dot enemy. So everything will happen only if the tag is enemy. So let's see what we need to do. Everything is correct. We have not added the explosion prefab, so let's also add it. So it's going to be serialized field private float rigid body bool can destroy. And if we can destroy, we'll just destroy the game object. So inside the update function, after if has game finished, if can destroy will destroy the game object after 1 second, and we'll just game object dot set active to false, and it will automatically destroy our game object, and it will set it up later. And we also need to set the can destroy to false. So let's set it up inside our awake function. So can destroy is set to false, and whenever we collide, this can destroy is going to be true for both of the game objects. Mhm. Mhm. So the first thing we need to check if the game has finished, or we can already destroy it, then we'll just return. So it does not matter if the game has finished, and then doesn't matter if it's the tag, we'll just set it up. Then we'll check if spawn manager dot temporary enemies, we didn't set it to public, so let's go inside our spawn manager, and it was set to public, but we didn't set it underscore. So temporary enemies dot contains collision dot game object. Then what we are going to do, we'll remove it from the temporary enemies, remove, and we'll pass the collision dot game object. So if it does not contain the collision dot game object, then we are going to trigger the update score event. So event manager dot trigger event and constants, and the value we are going to pass is going to be a new dictionary. And let's see, the first thing we need to pass is the message type. So constants dot score message dot type, because the update score is going to have multiple instances. This one is for the normal collision, and then when we want to update the score, we are going to pass the update type to like revenge mode or the miscount. So depending on the type, it's going to calculate the how much score it needs to increase and what additional parameters we need to set. So here we'll set the position, and it's going to be the transform dot position. So we are passing the position, and we are passing our type, and after that we will also create a new event, and this event is going to be the spawn coin event, which we'll create in just a second. And there's no message, but the position we are going to pass a transform dot position. And after that, spawn manager dot temporary enemies dot add will add the current game object, which is this one. So when this is colliding with another object, which is the collision dot game object, and that will check if that collision dot game object contains which one it is colliding. So we are adding it, and the above condition is going to false, and we will return here. So the next loop will not be spawned, and it will automatically delete both the objects after some seconds, so it won't matter. So let's create the explosion, and it's going to instantiate the explosion prefab, which we have not created yet. So let's create a serialized field, private game object, and we'll create an explosion prefab. Explosion prefab at transform dot position and quaternion dot identity, and will destroy the explosion after 2 seconds. So that should be can destroy will be set to true, and collision dot game object dot get component enemy, and this one's also can destroy is going to be set to true. So it's going to call this update score event, and there is also this spawn coin event. So let's first set up our update score event, because we already use so much in our spawn manager. So if we go inside our spawn manager and uh, score manager, sorry, and we'll need to create the update score. So private void update score, and here we'll get a parameters, which is going to be from string to object, and we are just going to call it message, and we'll have this update score event manager dot start listening constants dot event names dot update score, and we are going to listen the update score event. And inside the on disable, we are going to stop listening. So that is going to spawn an explosion and destroying that game objects. Now here we need to spawn our text. So we are going to spawn 1 unit upwards depending on whatever position we are going to pass. But first we'll need to get the score type, and the score type is going to be message, and here we'll get the variable name. So score message dot type and dot to string, and after that we'll switch on the score type. So let's use the switch statement and let's pass the score type. And for now let's go to default and we'll use the break, and we'll have different cases for it. So the first case we are going to have is for the normal collision, then we'll have for the miss, and maybe afterwards we'll have for the revenge. Hmm, hmm, hmm. So let's do the first case. So this case we have created the score type to be constants dot score message, and here it is the normal collision. So if it is a normal collision, what we are going to do? So first we'll increase the score by 40, and then we'll update the score count. So let's create a temporary score, and it's going to be uh, casted to an integer of the score, and we'll set the score text dot text is going to be temporary score dot toString plus pts, and let's add a space. So this one's going to update that, and let's create a vector 3, and the spawn pause it's going to be uh, casted to a vector 3, and we are going to get from the message the constants dot score message dot position. So it will get our spawn position, and we'll create a temporary score text, and it's going to be instantiate, and we are going to instantiate our score prefab, and temporary score text dot transform. mm, Temporary score text dot transform dot position is going to be, maybe we'll just use the additional parameters. So we are going to spawn it at the spawn pose at the quaternion dot identity, and temporary score text dot text is going to be plus 40, and we'll destroy the temporary score text after 2 seconds. So this one's going to spawn our object, and it should show our increased score. And we are also calling the event, and we need to also create the coin event in our spawn manager. So let's go inside our spawn manager, mm, mm, mm. And to spawn our coin prefab we'll also need to create our coin, but first let's see what variables we are going to use. And here we need to set it to a new list of game object, or else it will show not assigned error or null reference. Multiple errors should be there, but we should just use it. And now instead of start spawning and stop spawning, we are going to create a spawn private void spawn coin, and here we are going to pass the parameter of dictionary from string, and from string it's going to be object, and let's call it message. And it's already 40 minutes long, and there's also a miss in the revenge condition. Doesn't matter, it should already be so much long. So let's first create the temporary coin, and the temporary coin we are going to instantiate from the coin prefab at the position which is casted to a vector free. We'll just directly use it, and it is getting from the message, and we are going to get it at constants dot score message dot position and quaternion dot identity, and we'll destroy the temporary coin after 5 seconds. Now we have created the spawn coin function. We need to start listening to it. So start listening. So whenever the spawn coin function is called, it's going to spawn a coin. And we'll copy it, and when it is disabled we are going to stop listening. Now we'll need to create our coin. So let's go inside Unity and we'll start creating the coins. So we'll go inside our scripts. Miss count is assigned never used. Resources, and we'll assign the coin to, let's hide the canvas or collapse the canvas coin. Its scale is a little bit smaller, so we'll increase its scale, and order in layer let's set to -1. And let's attach a circle collider 2D component whose size is 2, so it gets collected even if it is far away. And after that we'll attach a coin component to it, and we'll coin tag, and we'll set its tag to coin, and we'll create a script and attach to it. So the script is going to be coin script, so we have created the coin script. So let's add the coin script to our coin object. And what else is needed? Mm, 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 mm. Enemy spawner, explosion, coin, and it needs to be set to a trigger, and everything should be fine. And we'll save this coin as a prefab, and we have our coin. Now let's go inside our spawn manager, and we'll attach the coin prefab, and let me see what's remaining for our spawn manager. So we have all the events set up, so our spawn manager is pretty much done, and it should not show any problems. And let's now create the function for our coin, which is going to be triggered whenever we collide with it. So the coin script is pretty much higher, con constants. So first is going to have a reference to the player, and after having reference to the player it's going to have a serialized field audio clip, and we'll just call it as coin clip. And after that start will get the player to be game manager dot instance dot player, and if player dot get component player dot is magnet on, then we'll start the coroutine, which we are going to create it, and we'll also add an on trigger enter 2D, and if collision dot compare tag of constants dot tags dot player, then we are going to similarly call the start coroutine function, and we need to create this function, so enumerator and we'll call it start moving. So it's going to first get the vector 3 offset. It's going to be transform dot position minus player dot transform dot position, and let's set the speed to be temp offset dot magnitude, and we'll multiply by 5f, and while offset dot square magnitude is greater than 0.1f, we are going to, let's first do yield return null, and before that we'll set up everything. So transform dot position is equals to v3 dot move towards, and we are going to move towards transform dot position to the player dot transform dot position, and inside the speed multiply by time dot delta time. So it should finish in around 0.2 seconds, and we'll reset our offset. And when this is finished, we are going to trigger the update coin event, and we'll destroy the game object. Destroy game object. Yeah, it should be more than. And we are going to event manager dot trigger event constants dot event names dot update coin, and for the new dictionary, and I don't think we are going to need the update coin later, we'll just use a different function, so let's just pass it. And inside our coroutine we'll start the coroutine of start moving. So we have the trigger, the player should have the player tag. Again, I didn't change to Visual Studio, the problem happens, so don't know from where did I stop changing, but I think we created the spawn coin function, which is just instantiating the coin prefab at this position, and then we added the coin script, which is going to set the player reference. The audio clip will do it afterwards, but and we have created the coroutine, which is moving from the current position to the player's position, and there's the speed and the offset, and at the end we are destroying the game object. So now if we go inside Unity, and we need to to set up the references. So there should be so many things that should not be working. So let's create the refresh score, refresh coin, update score, and the update coin function. So let's go inside Visual Studio, and the coin script should be done. And the camera follow constants is also done. And inside our enemy, camera follow constants collision. Yep, the and the last function it's remaining. So we'll just create the last function afterwards, which is the bombed event. Event manager, we don't need to do anything. Game manager also has not much remaining. And there's this menu car, menu manager, player. Hmm. Player will need to trigger the miss event. So where were we going? Inside our score manager. So we have the dictionary for the message, game over, and the update score. So there are going to be different events. So let's first create our refresh score and refresh point events. Private void refresh score, and inside our refresh score we are going to get a dictionary from string to object, and let's call it message, and it's just going to refresh the end score. So let's get int score is equals to player prefs dot has key dot data dot score, then we'll set it to else, we'll just set it to 0, and we don't need to update it, but we'll just use the total square text, or text is going to be score dot to string and plus points, and we'll copy a refresh score, and instead of 4 we'll use coin, and let's rename this parameter to coins. And we'll also rename this to coins text. Now after having this, let's add our update coin function, which is going to increase the amount of coins. And I don't think we don't need any parameters. Let's check it inside our anime script. Okay, the spawn manager is inside our score manager, and that should be inside our. Yep, we don't need more parameters. We are just going to increase the coin count by 1. So let's first get the coins, and we'll just call coins plus plus, and then we'll do player prefs dot set int constants dot data dot coin, and we'll set it to the coins. And similarly, we'll set the coins text dot text is going to be coins dot toString. And we need to start listening to all the three events. So there's update coin and update score we have already created. And let's also we'll do both of them later. 55 minutes, so we are able to increase the mm, score, and the coins are also spawning. The coins collision is also done. So let's now set up everything. So inside our score manager, we have the coins text and the count text. So let's hit play, and for now it's not showing any problems, but when they collide with each other, collide. Okay, the collision is not working. Mhm. What we need to do now, let's go inside Unity and let's see, not Unity, let's first subscribe this events. So we are inside our score manager. Let's duplicate the start listening, and we are going to listen to the refresh score and refresh score, duplicate and refresh point and the refresh point, and before the update score, update coin and the update coin. And let's copy all the three functions, and instead of start listening we are going to call the stop listening. So the events are correct here, there is not any problems, but inside our enemy we have on collision exit. The collision's never going to exit. Why did we use on collision exit? We need on collision enter. And collision enter 2D. So now maybe it should work. There should be problems, but we won't know what problems. Script error. Let's do it again. On collision enter 2D, and we need to copy this text here and paste it here. So now there should be problems because we don't know what we have done till now. Script error on collision enter 2D. Okay, on collision enter 2D, we need to copy this whole line and paste it here. So there was a problem with the collision script. It was using a 3D collider instead of a 2D collider. So now if we hit play, when the cars collide with each other, the explosion prefab is not set. Okay, we'll set it up. The point is to get errors so we can know what we have not done. So let's add our explosion prefab, and we also added the audio clip. Now let's play again and we should see some explosions, and this car's too speedy. Don't. Let's set it up again. And at the start we need to refresh the coins. Okay, come on dude, collide with each other. I need to get the number of coins. Okay, so here they collided, and as you can see, we are able to collect the coins, and there was also the score text. Now, if any of them collides, we are able to see the coin, and I think there is only one coin. Hmm. We need to set the explosion to be less like overwhelming. So let's go inside our explosion. Duration, let's just set it to 2, lifetime to 2, and start speed, let's set it to 20. And size also, it's spreading too much, so let's restart. Now it's looking much better. And for the color, let's use a little bit more grayish. So the explosion was correctly set up. Now also for the coin, the scale was a little bit larger. So let's use the 1.5, 1.5. And that should be good enough for our coin. And I think we'll stop here. And we need to call the refresh coin function when the game starts. So as you can see, we are able to have our cars having collided with each other. So, and we created the restart, and we also need to call the refresh score and the update score. So let's set it up, and let me show you. I didn't change to Unity, so currently it's looking this right now, and we need to have the update score called at the start, or we'll just use the when the start function is called, we will reset our coins and our score. So let's see if we have the start function in our score manager. So when the game start function is called, we will do copy this line. So it set up the start text, and inside our update coin we'll just copy this line and we'll set up the, maybe we can just call event manager dot trigger event constants dot event names dot refresh coin, and the parameter we are going to pass is null. So it will automatically reset our, not in the start, we need to set it up in the awake. So this is also going to fail. So let's go inside our game manager, and inside the start we are going to call the event manager dot trigger event, and for the score manager, instead of the game start, we need to call it on the start. And doesn't matter if it is inside the awake or the start because it has its own parameters. So let's hit play, and we should be able to increase our score depending, let's there are 3 coins, and we have our score changed and the game is ended. So this and this are not working, and as you can see we have the play, the pause button, and if you want to go directly to the scene, the I don't know what happened, but all of our colors changed. So let's see what happened. So let's go inside the scenes, main menu manager. Hmm, hmm, hmm. It should be inside our menu car. So in the prefabs inside the menu car, the gradients automatically all set them up to white. Don't know what's happening, but we'll fix it afterwards. So that was it for this video, and in the next video we are going to set up the boosts, so when the player misses or when a certain amount of misses are passed, it's going to show the timer, which is the Raven slider, and we should be able to have the player boosted and destroy the enemy cars. And depending on how we have created our update score event, we had multiple types, so we'll update the score. So if you watched till now, thank you for watching and see you guys in the next video.